Now, the connection then to Andrea Dworkin is that Andrea Dworkin quite explicitly, right, wants to say, all of this talk about freedom and equality and respecting women as individuals that the modern framework has talked about, all of that, and I'll use her kind of language, is bullshit. It's a cover up that men who have been constructed that they're supposed to dominate women, they will pretend that they are interested in women's rights and women's equality, but really what they want to do is basically, and this is again her language, is dominate, exploit, and rape women, and that's what it is really to be a man. And when Dworkin and McKinnon teamed up, as they did in the 1990s, in a more political activist form, they were arguing for a censorship of pornography. And the arguments that they developed for the censorship of pornography were precisely the postmodern arguments. It wasn't the old-fashioned argument that pornography is bad, the sexuality is dirty, and that we should suppress it and just use it for procreative purposes. It wasn't any of that. But also with respect to pornography, it wasn't the argument that, well, there's great erotica and there's nasty erotica, but we should trust individuals to exercise their own autonomy and free choice and to use it well in their own lives. The idea here was, and notice the postmodern language, pornography is a kind of language, and that the way the human mind works is that it is constructed by language. And so if we are born into a social world in which there are pornographic images out there, those shape our minds. And what they do is they teach men to think a certain way, they teach women to think a certain way, and we don't have autonomy or agency to make our own decisions about which of these sexuality messages we're going to accept or reject. Instead, we are passively created by these pornographic messages. And these pornographic messages uniformly, from their perspective, teach men to be exploitive rapists and dominators of women, and they teach women to be passive and just to take it. So as a matter then of policy, we have to just get rid entirely of that language, that pornographic language, and that requires a kind of censorship. So to that extent, they are using postmodern arguments to defend an anti-pornographic message.
I get that. Thank you. That was so well summarized there. It was brilliant.
Thank
because they it just sort of clicked in my mind. I had that real moment there as you're speaking, because I remember they were saying that you wrote in your book, they call for censorship of pornography on postmodern grounds, and I now understand it, because they were saying that it's because specifically because it violates women, not because it comes from a postmodernist thinking, but that's just the fundamentals that they come from. Almost they unknowingly are saying that because they see everything in terms of power differentials, power dynamics.
That's right.
Instead of women having agency, because there's plenty of these porn stars, they don't get into it because they're tied up and forced into the room, on a ball and chain. They're doing it because they want to do it. That's the agency that these women have. That's the modernist argument, right? But the postmodernist argument is to say that they're only doing this because they're subordinate to men, and when they see a man, having sex with this woman, it's because she has no say in that, she has no free will. That's how they see it, because they're seeing things through the lens of men are dominant and women are subordinate, I'm guessing.
Right, sure, that's right. And then of course they will respond to you by saying, those women you think who are voluntarily becoming porn actresses, they have been earlier constructed by society through methods that they're not even aware of to accept a certain role. So they have a false consciousness. So even if you have a woman who says, I like sex of a certain sort, and I like being filmed, and I like making a living doing this, well, you don't really know who you are. You've been constructed into that role. So you still are a victim.